We start off the whole structure
He that hath my commandments, and I will love him, and will manifest myself to him. Look at that. Look what happens when you keep his commandments. Look what goes on. He makes himself known to you through the Holy Spirit that dwelleth in you. That's the Ruach. And as far as we've studied so far, we know it's feminine gender. It's not a man. It's not masculine.
Let's go to the Epistle of John.
Okay, the Epistle
of John 2, chapter 2.
1 John, Josh?
1 John.
All right, chapter 2. Verse 3, correct?
First John 2 and First John chapter 2, verse 3.
Yeah, you have a hard time finding that. That's a good Bible. Okay. It'll take me a little time to get used to that original King James. I like it. Okay. The Epistle of John, 1 John, chapter 2, verse 3. Test of true knowledge. And hereby we do know that we know him. This is the way we tell people and really testify of him. If we keep his commandments.
If we what?
If we keep his commandments.
Uh-huh.
He that saith, I know him, I go to church, and keepeth not his commandments, is a liar.
Mm-hmm.
And the truth is not in you, in them, him. But whoso keepeth his word, in him verily is the love of the Most High perfected.
So we understand that if we keep his commandments, we have the truth of Christ within us.
Yes, sir.
Okay? So, and that's a whole nother part of the teaching. We know that Christianity teaches you not to keep his commandments, but that's a whole nother conversation. But we know that to be a lie, because the Bible says you are still bound to keep these laws.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Wherever you got that teaching from, you better throw it out the window, that the law is done away with. It's nowhere in the Bible.
So before we go into the book, we've been learning about different things that we see in church and the origin of them.
Go ahead, John.
And we don't find these practices in the Bible, right? The steeples, church buildings. Now we're going to get into the pulpit and a pew. How did that get introduced into the concept of what a church is?
Excuse me.
Right?
Yeah.
First, we must get the origin of everything. Let's go to Exodus. Exodus 18:15. We have to read.
18:15, right?
See, and that's another thing. People have been conditioned not to read except they're in the presence of a preacher. That's mind control, right?
Josh, you said 15?
You are supposed to know the Bible for yourself.
That's right.
Regardless of whether you're around a preacher or a so-called clergyman, which all that is a pagan invention.
That's right. Come on. Okay, so
we're coming out of the 1611 King James Bible.
All right. So we're going to Exodus chapter 18, verse 15.
And before you read that, Dad, I want to show them.
Sure.
If you get the 1611,
look what's in there. The original missing books, never taken out. Who took them out? They didn't want you to know.
So the Apocrypha is in the original Bible.
And in that Apocrypha, it explains in Wisdom of Solomon that false Christ that you worship on Sunday. That's why they took it out, and much, much more too. Okay, ready?
Exodus 18 and 15.
And Moses said unto his father-in-law, because the people come unto me to inquire of the Most High, when they have a matter, they come unto me, and I judge between one and another, and I do make them know the statutes of the Most High and his laws.
And his what?
And his laws.
So the way we judge among the people is we must know his law to know what is good and evil.
And Moses' father-in-law said unto him, the thing that thou doest is not good.
So the way you are trying to lead these people with one person only is wrong. See, again, that's a strike against the pastoral office. The modern pastor, and we're going to get into it. Hold on. Eventually, we're going to show you the origin when we get to that chapter in the book. There's a whole chapter breaking down the whole deception of the pastor office. The pastor, the obstacle to every member functioning. And that's what he is. He's an obstacle. He's a problem. So,
okay, ready? Okay, 18. Thou wilt surely wear away, both you and this people.
Thou shalt surely wear away. So the concept of that is God never ordained for one person to lead a whole group of people.
That's right.
As a figurehead, as a single, he ordained for a body of people to function together.
Yes, sir.
Not segmented. Read.
For this thing is too heavy for thee. Thou art not able to perform it thyself alone.
If you look at the pastor office, it's unrealistic to expect one person to lead you.
Come on.
And also, deacons and elders and deacons really don't run the church. They're just there to surround the pastor. They're basically the whole function of elders and leaders outside of the pastor is corrupt, because even when Paul gave the offices in Ephesians 4, he gave some apostles, teachers, prophets, apostles, and teachers, evangelists. Those were not professions or jobs.
That's right.
Those were gifts.
Come on.
They were not a job or a paid profession. And we're also going to get into all of that later on and show you how pagan that office is. No, not that the office in the Bible is pagan. The modern version of it is pagan.
Okay. Hearken now unto my voice. I will give thee counsel, and the Most High shall be with thee. Be thou for the people to the Most Highward, that thou mayest bring the causes unto the Most High, and thou shalt teach them ordinances and laws.
So we are to teach the ordinances of God and his laws. Go to Numbers 11. Numbers 11:26. You got to open up your Bibles, brothers and sisters.
Yeah. No, don't just sit there in this program and just listen. We bring the word. No philosophy here. 11:1, Josh.
26.
Now let me find it. No philosophy in this ministry.
But
Hold on. But, okay, hold on, Tony. But even a whole month shall it come.
11. Wait.
You said 11.
26.
Oh, 26. Hold on, John. I'm sorry. Wait. Oh, 3, 4. I'm sorry. No, it's my bad. It's hard to see with this light. I got to get a light over us, right over us. 25. Okay. I got it. Okay. But there remained 2 of the men in the camp. The name of one was Eliab, and the name of the other was Midah. Read.
Mm-hmm.
And the Spirit rested upon them.
And the what?
And the Spirit rested upon them.
So see, now this is giving us a picture of the mind of the Most High. He never. Now, this is not attacking the position or the biblical position of Moses, but God never intended for one person to control people.
That's right.
He wants to move and put his spirit upon the whole body.
That's right.
Not just one elder.
And they were of them that were written, but went not out unto the tabernacle, and they prophesied in the camp.
So they weren't. Now this isn't against the tabernacle, but they weren't functioning. Excuse me, as a priest in the tabernacle. They were speaking under the unction of the Ruach amongst the people, bringing the people into unity under the Most High. Read.
And then ran a young man out and told Moses and said, Eliab and Midah do prophesy in the camp. And Joshua, the son of Nun, the servant of Moses, one of his young men, answered and said, My Lord Moses, forbid them.
So, see, so this man went and complained to Moses, and he told them, stop these brothers from doing this. Read.
And Moses said unto him, Envious thou for my sake?
So Moses then said, basically, are you envious of my position? Basically, are you really think I enjoy being the only person speaking for the Most High?
Wow, come on.
So even Moses understood it wasn't God's prescribed will for one person to direct everybody.
That's right. Now listen.
It was his permissive will.
Now listen to
for
Moses.
Even at the Mount Sinai, in Exodus, I think in 19, Moses told the people to come up and draw near to God, but the people said, "No, you speak for us." So God and Moses never intended for one person to control the people. He wanted to deal corporately with everybody, so he could have a scriptural relationship through his laws with the people, not just one person.
Awesome.
So God has a permissive will and a prescribed will. He prescribes for him, the Spirit to rule and to lead all people to him. But most of the time he'll show that through leadership. But leadership is not an idol, or it's not a profession.
That's right. It's not
It's
one
a
person.
gift.
That's right.
And God permitted Moses to lead, but even from the beginning, as soon as he brought the Israelites, his people, out of Egypt, He wanted them all to connect to him, not just one pastor. Right?
That's right.
So now we're in Numbers and we're seeing this picture of Moses telling this brother, look, this is nothing envious for you to want this responsibility, right? Read.
Okay. Envious thou for my sake? Would the Most High that all the Most High's people were
Some.
prophets? All.
Just one man.
All.
Just Moses.
All.
Start that again.
Envious thou for my sake?
Read.
Would the Most High that all the Most High's people were prophets, and that the Most High would put his spirit upon them?
Upon me.
Upon them.
Upon just one man.
Them.
So now we're getting a picture of the heart of the Most High through Moses. Moses is not expressing just his heart, but the Most High's heart for his people. That all Israel would operate with the gift of the unction of the Spirit. So the rest, the responsibility or the pressure wouldn't just reside on one person.
There you go. That's right.
Because leading people is pressure. The Most High doesn't want his how can I don't want to say his mouthpiece, because everyone in the body is a mouthpiece. He doesn't want one person to be pressured with controlling everything, because then unrealistic things come with that. You have to be super spiritual all the time, and it actually starts to zap you of the spirit.
Wear you out, yeah.
And then you become plastic or fake. Like pastors today, they're not always spiritual. They're not always,
That's right.
They don't talk like that regularly in the house, like they're great orators or right. And they don't see that. Shows you that that's a fake position. A man doesn't speak like that. You should be able to speak the word of, when you teach the word, it should be natural. It should be scripted or taught. It should be a natural flow. That doesn't mean you don't lose your train of thought, but it shouldn't be, how can I say this? It shouldn't be seen like it's played out.
Acted.
Exactly. Acted. You can tell
because they can't help acting sometimes because they're so worn out.
You can tell, brother, these pastors act a lot when they preach. That's not the way they are.
When you see them in the marketplace, they're not the same when they're in the church.
And then you expect them to be the same.
And they're not. And they're like grumpy. They're mean.
Why? Because the position is zapping them.
That's right. Come on.
So now let's go to Samuel. 1 Samuel 8. So now we see the expression of God's heart towards the people.
That's right.
He wants to operate through the body. He wants to operate through the body, not just one person.
That's right. 8 where, Joshua?
Start from the top.
11 or okay.
It came to pass.
Yeah, we did this Monday. I think the list.
Now, again, brothers and sisters, we have to understand the principle of what
King,
of what this is really telling us through the Spirit of the Most High, right? These aren't just words in a page. This is a concept of so time wore on from Moses. Joshua led the people into Canaan. Then judges and prophets started to be set up over the people. Now, even with the office of judges and prophets, they weren't seen as figureheads or one. Their function was to unite the people to God, not to control them underneath them. Right?
That's right.
It was always the intention of God for the person or the individual at first who he put his spirit upon to lead, to direct people to him, not to put them in a structure under him.
Okay, so you want to start from the beginning of 8, Josh? 1 Samuel 8. Israel asked for a king.
Mm-hmm.
And it came to pass, Samuel 8 from the top. And it came to pass when Samuel was old that he made his sons judges over Israel. Now the name of his firstborn was Joel. And the name of his second, Abathar, right? Or Ahayah. Ahayah. Okay. There were judges in Beersheba, and his sons walked not in his ways, but turned aside after Lucah, like robbing.
So
and
they started
took bribes.
They started to run the house of God like a business, where they were being paid to be over people,
and perverted judgment.
So all people who take bribes or money to be an office of a priest or a pastor always corrupt judgment. They always lie.
You know what, too? That means, too, Josh. It means they can't tell the truth. It's in them now to go after that money.
Mm-hmm. Read.
Okay, that's good, Josh. Ready? Then all the elders of Israel gathered themselves together, all, and came to Samuel unto Ramah, and said unto him, Behold, thou art old, and thy sons walk not in thy ways. Now make us a king to judge us, like all the nations.
See, now again, look at this. The Most High is directing his people, and they are together underneath him as a body functions, with the headship being the Most High through the Ruach and the Spirit, right? Manifested through a prophet who was merely supposed to connect the people to the Most High.
Excuse me.
Now, what's the significance of the king? Why was that a pagan practice? Because all the kingdoms of the earth from Babylon sought to have one person control everything, govern everybody, for one person to be the dictator of morality. That was never God's problem. Now, again, God has a prescribed will and a permissive will. So God permitted, not that. See, God never prescribed for a one-man pyramid structure to rule his people.
That's right.
That he permitted it because the people were tired of Samuel.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They didn't want to operate under the Most High anymore. They wanted to be controlled by a man. And why would you think about it? And we're going to read a couple more verses. God split the sea. He plagued Egypt. Wait a minute. That's a perfect script. That is a perfect. Wait a minute. That's a perfect symbol of what I'm saying. Egypt was ruled by a king, right? The Pharaoh. What did God do to Pharaoh? He destroyed his system. Why? Not only that it enslaved his people, God's will was never for one person to rule people, that's a great symbol of what I'm saying, Pharaoh. Because what happens? He always ends up oppressing people, enslaving you.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
Because it's not just a man that comes with the role, it's a spirit.
Mm-hmm.
It's a spirit of Pharaoh, a spirit of control.
That's it.
Right? God wants to lead his people, not control them, but lead them. There's a difference.
That's right.
There's a difference between being led by God and being controlled by a person.
That's right.
When you're being under control, that one spirit begins to dominate you and zap you of the spirit God put in you. Right? But when you're being led by the Ruach and led by Christ through the Most High, Ahayah, bahashem, Yashayah, you don't have to be controlled by a man,
Come on.
right?
That's right.
Because Christ is above you, right? So Pharaoh is a great picture. God destroys kings. God hates the pyramid structure of a king, but he permitted, and not that, David and Solomon were after God's heart. Eventually Solomon went off. But even with Israel, the kingship system failed.
It did.
All the kings went off and were corrupt, right? Which goes to show you one person can never rule.
That's right.
God shows you, even through the permissive setting up of a king, that was never his will.
But the thing displeased Samuel when they said, "Give us a king to judge us." And Samuel prayed unto the Most High. And the Most High said unto Samuel, "Hearken unto the voice of the people in all that they say unto thee. For they have not rejected thee, but they have rejected me.
But they have rejected me.
That I should reign over them.
Read.
According to all the works which they have done since the day that I brought them up."
No, that Moses brought them out of Egypt.
That I brought them up.
No, that Aaron brought them out.
That I brought them up out of Egypt, even unto this day, wherewith they have forsaken me.
Right.
And
so
served other gods.
So they wanted to be like the heathen, right? And again, God did all the miracles. He led them. They were under him. They weren't even really under Moses. They were under the Most High. Right? Read.
So do they also unto thee. Now therefore hearken unto their voice, howbeit yet protest solemnly unto them, and show them the manner of the king that shall reign over them.
So there's a certain way, a system, a man rules you, right? There's always a
Tell
system.
them what's going to happen. Tell them what's going to happen to you.
There's always a pyramid structure of a king or a one-man leading system.
Now Samuel's got to explain to them, here's what's going to happen to you. since you rejected him and not me. And Samuel told all the words of the Most High unto the people that asked of him a king. And he said, this will be the manner of the king that shall reign over you. He will take your sons and appoint them for himself.
So he will set hierarchical system, an order system beneath him. Look at the church. It's exactly the same. The pastors at the top,
that's right.
The deacons, the elders,
right.
And then you at the bottom.
That's right.
So if you're not in the position where, in a certain position, you feel inadequate, you feel like God isn't there for you,
right? That's
or
right.
God isn't speaking through you.
Wow. Okay.
Read.
For his chariots and to be his horsemen.
So in other words, to be his servants.
Right.
So the whole church system really is to serve the man, the pastor,
that's right.
Or the king.
Almost like a god, Josh, huh?
Read.
And some shall run before his chariots.
Or, aid him in everything,
right.
Like he needs them.
And he will appoint him captains over thousands, and captains over 50s, and will set them to ear his ground, and to reap his harvest, and to make his instruments of war, and instruments of his chariots. Wow.
So now, before we go into John, then we'll go into the book. I want to go to Micah, I think. Micah 3.
Was that after Hosea? Tony? Yeah, after Hosea.
Yeah. Yeah. Then we.
Yeah, after Joel, I think. Oh, that's Amos.
Right after Amos, I think.
That's Obadiah. Jonah. Yeah, Micah is almost the here it is. After Jonah. Okay. All right, Micah.
Micah is Micah 3 and 10, Dad.
All right, Micah 3:10. Micah 3:10. They build up Zion with blood,
Read.
and Jerusalem with iniquity.
Read.
The heads thereof judge for reward.
So he's paid, has a salary. Read.
Mm-hmm. Hold on. Wait, we were 10, right?
Mhm.
For reward. And priests thereof teach for hire, and the prophets thereof divine for money.
So
Wow.
under a pagan system, brothers
That's
and
why
sisters,
they don't like the Old Testament.
the
Comes against
the
it.
whole that shows you the pastor
Mm-hmm.
and everyone, the elders are paid. Which God never told nobody that worked for him to have a salary.
I know why they don't like the Old Testament.
Now let's go to John.
The Gospel of John, or
John.
John.
I said the Gospel.
Yeah.
Okay, John. All right, got it. John. Okay, John.
John 4.
John 4. Oh yeah. John 4. Okay, John 4.
Verse 20.
Leave it. Okay.
4:20.
I can't, Josh. I'm sorry.
St. John chapter 4 and 20 says, for the Father,
Yes, hello?
wait,
Our fathers.
Yes.
4:20. Our fathers.
Hey, Jimmy, how are you? Yeah, I got a paper from, I got a piece of paper from,
our fathers worship in this mountain, and ye say that in Jerusalem is the place wherein that we ought to worship. So let's look at this. Samaritans had the northern kingdom at that time was not in Israel. It had been removed through in the
I'm on the air. We have you? Yeah. No, I'm on the air. We have a YouTube ministry, and we go on at 9 o'clock. Can we do it tomorrow?
So we must understand. So
yeah, I'm not just gonna.
the people thought that God was in a mountain or in a city.
At least 6.
So what's the concept? The concept is
6. Hold on. About 6 will be done, Josh? Yeah, about 6.
so the concept is that
All right, I'll go get the part, but if you can't do it tomorrow, then you can do it definitely the next day, right? All right, Thursday?
so the concept of this is that God is in a place or a location.
All right, I'll have to pay for that.
God is not in a place or a location. God is not in a place or location.
Yeah.
He is in people. Okay?
No problem,
So God does not operate according to the
yeah, I mean,
concept of
down the
location
end, but I don't want you to rush. It's going to get dark.
or in a structure or in a place. That is a
Yeah, but you're going to need lights. You want me to come to your house to do it?
pagan. That is a pagan ideal. That
Alright,
is
if
a
I
pagan
can't get
custom.
today to get it, I'll get it in the morning.
So this woman said, our fathers worshipped in this mountain.
You can
Speaking
get it
of,
Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
where they believe Jacob's well was. So they believed that place was
Yeah, I might
sacred
go to the park today, but, you know, I don't want you doing it.
or sacerdotal. That, in other words,
Alright.
that place was set apart from everywhere else. So God can only manifest in one area, which is the whole church concept.
You know, Saturday morning.
The Most High is only in a building, right? God, the Most High, is not in.
I got family here too. Maybe sometimes we stay long. I don't know. I don't want to rush that. I'll just go by the park. I'll have it. And then you're ready to do it. Just call me.
So God is not in a place or a structure. God dwells within a people or people that deal with him in spirit and truth, right? So I'll read that again.
All right, Josh.
For our fathers worshipped in this mountain, but you say that in Jerusalem is the place wherein men ought to worship.
Look at that. Give me your glass, Josh. Hand it over. Hey, can't talk. Hey, minister.
Again, listen to the verbiage of this. God is in a location or a physical place. So that it was the concept of the Israelites or people at that time. God is in a place, not amongst people. Now, again, God always destroyed the temple. Why? Because the temple was temporal.
Take water.
The temple was never meant to be a permanent landmark. All right. The temple was always meant to be temporal, but that became a worship symbol. Not what it represented, but it became sacerdotal. Okay. Now that's not taking a hit at the God permitted Solomon and David and Solomon to build the temple. Okay, but that whole idea was not meant to be permanent. Okay, God never wanted you to have the idea of he is only in one area. That's why the tabernacle was designed to be moved, to be mobile, symbolizing that the Most High is a spirit. He's not a location. The Most High is a spirit, and he moves with people or in people. Okay? So, next verse. Yashayah said unto her, woman, believe me, the hour cometh when ye shall neither in this mountain nor worship or in Jerusalem worship the Father. Why? Where are you going to worship God if there's no temple or no location? See, Christ was here to prepare us to follow God, the Most High, through the Spirit, through the Ruach, to keeping His commandments. But see, the whole concept here, we have to get you off of the idea of God is in a place. God is not in a place. God is not in a place.
Let me say something real quick, Josh. This is really going to bless you. This is going to go right along with what you're saying. How many times, Christians, if you're listening tonight, when I was in Queens, I used to go into New York and preach on the street, and that lion Cirillo had big pictures of himself, Tony, guys, on a wall, a big building on a wall. Come tonight to this tabernacle. God is here.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm telling you, they're famous for that. They are famous for that.
Want to read?
Yeah. So where do you want to go, Josh? Where?
Read John 4:21.
4:21. You wanted me to just run out? So I can't run out now. Okay, John 21, 4:21. Ready? Yashayah said unto her, Woman, believe me, the hour cometh when ye shall neither in this mountain nor yet in Jerusalem worship the Father. Ye worship, ye know not what. In other words, you don't know who you're worshiping. We know what we worship, for salvation is of the Hebrews.
Read.
But the hour cometh, and now is, when the true worshiper shall worship the Father in spirit and in truth. No, in the building.
So the time is coming when you shall worship the Most High through spirit and truth. Meaning, Christ came to dissemble the whole location-based spirituality, because that was never God's intended plan. That was only temporary. That's why he destroyed the temple all the time. That's why even in 70 AD, the temple had to be destroyed. God never intended for you to look at architecture, brick and mortar building as spiritual. That is a whole concept that we have learned here in the West, to make sacred a building instead of the people. Christ said out of his own lips that the time cometh when neither in Jerusalem or this place, but the true worshipers will worship him in spirit and truth. Meaning what? That the whole symbol of the building was the person, not the building. The whole emphasis is the person, right? God wants to have a relationship with you, not you through a building, or not a building. So I want to go. So we've been learning some origins of church things and things we have been accustomed to in church, right? So we're going to share from the book Pagan Christianity. Now we're going to go into.
He wants to do it now. He wants me to go get the part, but I told him I'm not just going to run out. You know, we're on the pulpit, right? Okay.
The pulpit.
So explain a little before we read it.
Now we've been breaking down all different aspects of the church building itself, showing you how all these accoutrements are rooted in paganism. Now we're getting to the pulpit. All right, read the pulpit.
Okay, the pulpit. The earliest sermons were delivered from the bishop's chair, or chadar, which was positioned behind the altar. Later, the ambo, a raised channel from the became the place where sermons were delivered. The ambo was taken from the Jewish synagogue. However, it has earlier roots in the reading desk and platforms of Greco-Roman antiquity.
So
John, okay.
So the pulpit is a carryover from pagan Greek Greco-Roman culture. Read.
Okay. John Chrysostom was 347, 407, was noted for making Ambo a place for preaching. As early as AD 250, The ambo was replaced by the pulpit.
Read.
Cyprian.
Cyprian.
Oh, Cyprian of Carthage speaks of placing the leader of the church into public office upon the podium. One word, pulpit, is derived from the Latin word pulpitus, which means a stage. The pulpit, the pulpitum of pulpit was propped up in the highest elevated place in the congregation.
And notice, that's exactly how every church is set up.
Wow.
You have the pews,
Mhm.
you have the deacons, and you have the platform with the pulpit.
In time, the phrase to ascend to platform ad pulpium became part of the religious vocabulary of clergy. By AD 252, Cyprian outdoors to the raised platform that segregated the clergy from the laity as the sacred and venered congregation of the clergy.
Read.
Wow, some hard words. By the end of the Middle Ages, the pulpit became common in parish churches. With the Reformation, it became the central piece of furniture in the church building. The pulpit symbolized the replacement of the centrality of residence action, the mass with clerical verbal instruction discernment. In Lutheran church, in Lutheran churches, it's hard to see, the pulpit was moved to the front of the altar. In Reformed churches, the pulpit dominated until the altar finally disappeared and was replaced by the communion table. Right? Communion table.
Okay, everybody. The pulpit has always been a central piece of the Protestant, so much so that well-known pastors who spoke during conference spreaded sponsored by Billy Graham Evangelistic Association. If the church is live, it is because the pulpit is alive. If the church is dead, it's because the pulpit is dead. The pulpit elevates the clergy to a position of prominence. Time to its meaning. Its part puts the preacher at the center stage, separating and placing him high above God's people. So again, as we see, brothers and sisters, the origin of pulpits goes back after Christ lived. This is another custom that was added into the church by pagans.
I don't know. Somebody called this number. Someone told me to call this number. Who are you?
So we understand that all this idea is not in the Bible. You never see Christ behind a pulpit or any of the apostles. Okay, so this is a whole level of control. Okay, and again, the pulpit is really focused to put a man, to give you the idea of a man being above you instead of God being above you. Read the pew and the
balcony.
Read.
Okay. The pew is perhaps the greatest inhabitor of the face-to-face fellowship. It is a symbol of liturgy and perceptivity in the contemporary church and has made corporate worship a sport. The word pew is derived from the Latin pewtism. It means a seat raised up above floor level or a balcony. Pews were unknown to the church building for the first 1,000 years of Christianity history. In the early basilicas, congregations stood throughout the entire service. Wow. This is still the practice among many Eastern Church Orthodox.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
By the 13th century, backless benches were gradually introduced into English parish buildings. These benches were made of stone and placed against the walls. They were then moved into the body of the building, the area called the nave. At first, the benches were arranged in a semicircle around the pulpit. Later, they were fixed to the floor. The modern pew was introduced in the 14th century, though it was not commonly found in churches until the 15th century. At that time, wooden benches supplanted the stone seats. By the 18th century, box pews became popular. Box pews have a commercial history. They were furnished with cushioned seats, carpets, and other accessories. They were sold to families and considered private property. Box pews owners set out to make them as comfortable as possible. Some decorated them with curtains, cushions, padded armchairs, fireplaces, even special compartments for pet dogs. It was not uncommon for owners to keep their pews sealed with lock and key. After much criticism from the clergy, these embellished pews were replaced with open pews.
Mm-hmm.
Because box pews often had high sides. The pulpits had to be elevated so as to be seen by the people. Thus, the wine glass pulpit was born during colonial times. 18th century family box pews were replaced with slip pews so that all the people faced the newly erected high platform where the pastor conducted the service. So what is the pew? The meaning of the word tells it all. It is a lowered balcony, detached seating from which to watch professions on a stage of perfectionists on a stage. The pulpit immobilizes the congregation of the saints and readers, then mute speech spectators. It hinders face-to-face fellowship and interaction. Galleries for churches' balconies were invented by the Germans in the 16th century. They were popularized by the Puritans in the 18th century. Since then, balconies have become the trademark of the Protestant church building. Their purpose is to bring the congregation closer to the pulpit. Again, ensuring that congregations will be able to clearly hear the preacher has always been the main consideration in Protestant church design.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So
He wants to do it now. He wants to go run out and buy the plant.
So we understand that. So again, we don't read where the church met and everything was centered around hearing a person, right?
Yeah, okay.
The Bible doesn't support none of this.
That's right. Come on.
Rather, we are to function as a body, right? So, again, think about it. When you sit in a pew, you're not facing anybody. You're not interacting with nobody when you're in a pew. It's all focused toward the speaker, not people around you. So there's no unity.
Interaction, nothing. Yeah.
It's all set up
Almost hide the
for
people.
you to be mute and listen.
Wow. Wow.
So, again, so we understand that all this is pagan, okay? Nowhere in the Bible does it say to set up a building like this,
That's right.
where the people are forced to listen to someone oratate, right? So, we understand the Most High never organized any of this. This is man-made. The religion of Christianity, after Christ died and his original apostles died, all this corruption came in. So now we just accept this stuff as if it's in the Bible.
That's right. That's right, John.
See, again, that goes into the programming. Set up to program you to believe everything you do is in the Bible. He's not set up to force you to question nothing. Because as soon as you begin to question things, your religion falls apart. Because then you start to research things and find out all this stuff is wrong. Okay? Now, again, the Bible is not wrong. The Bible is not wrong. Right? The Bible was never the problem. We have been taught to misunderstand this book and to and to compartmentalize this into a religion. This book is about spirituality and rules and laws. Again, the Bible, John, Christ told this woman that neither in the wilderness, I mean, in this mountain or in Jerusalem will people worship me. But for God desires to be worshipped in spirit and truth, not in a location. So, again, we have been so conditioned, right, to believe that God is in a place. He's not. He is not in a place. That is a condition that you have been brainwashed to believe. He is in individuals. The person is the church, not the building. Let me say it like this.
Want me to run out and go buy the clock so you can do it now?
This is 1 Corinthians.
That's where the people can do it too. I'll go get it tomorrow morning.
What? Know ye not? 1 Corinthians 6:19.
Come on.
That your bodies are the temple of the Most High, of the Holy Spirit. That your bodies are the temple. Your body is the temple of the Most High, which is in you. Which is in you.
So listen, true believers, like we believe really are now, because we're keeping the law of the Sabbath, and Christ. So we can go anywhere. We don't have to be in the building. We could be in the cemetery. We could be on the street. I could be in my home like we are now. I don't need a place with a steeple on it, with a pagan cross.
Which
That's all pagan.
ye have of God. You are not your own, for you are bought with a price. Wherefore glorify God in your body and in your spirit, which are God's, the Most High's, right? So we see from the biblical perspective, the body or the individual is a temple, not the building, not structure, not wood. That concept came after the apostles, right? That is a pagan concept of control. God is not in buildings. God is not in buildings. That's why he destroyed the temple. That's why he continually destroyed temples. The temple, even set up by his people, that wasn't his or his perfect will. His perfect will was always to deal with individuals, not through a structure, not a building.
Wow, that's good, Josh.
So, with all that said, Shalom.
Shalom.